Pagno got a first-hand look from the air at the catastrophic damage, and early estimates predict the cost to rebuild will likely be in the tens of billions of dollars. So, David, what did you see?
I've never seen storm surge do what this did. I've been covering hurricanes for 22 years. We flew over this place called Little Hickory Island, which is a barrier island just west of Bonita Springs. And Nora, as we came over the ridge, all the way down the street, the hotels are still standing, but it looked like the cars and everything around it had been shot out of a cannon. I'm talking about sand that has been pushed probably a mile inland, and it looked to be 2 to 3 feet deep. There were some places where taillights of vehicles were sticking out of the sand, like a stick almost.
Wow.
When we got in the helicopter in Tampa, we flew south, and the first widespread devastation we saw was over the community of Inglewood. A lot of residents, people waving at the helicopter, completely surrounded by floodwater and really heavy wind damage. Bottom line, as far as we could tell along the coast, it reminded me of an earthquake, as if the hurricane just sort of picked up the earth and just shook it.
Because it was all along the coast, yeah.
And just, I mean, tossed like toys.
Yeah. David Pagno, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You might think that an entire area where millions of people live, collapsing and falling into ruin, would fit the scenario of a fictional doomsday scenario, but as it turns out, it might just be a reality for Floridians. The state of Florida is a popular tourist destination and the home to an ever-increasing number of people. But as the effects of climate change worsen and the state infrastructure suffers years of torment from weather conditions, it may lose its ability to support its immense population. Many of the state's inhabitants have ignored this growing problem for years until it was right on their doorstep, but it may not be too late for hope. One of the largest problems Florida is facing due to climate change is rising sea levels. The state is almost entirely bordered by the ocean and has very few high points in its topography. Due to this, it is possible for wide swaths of land to be covered by water with just a slight raise in water level. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the sea level has risen already 6 inches and will rise another 6 inches in the next 15 years. The effects of this are already being seen in Florida neighborhoods, as residents told CNN that flooding in the streets has forced them to take other routes or lose transportation in their area altogether. Another at-risk facet of infrastructure in Florida are pretty much any building constructed with modern materials, as seawater is corrosive to both the concrete and steel that make up certain buildings, such as the Champlain Towers. For years, these buildings have been deteriorating as saltwater floods into the low points and wears away at the structure. This same predicament faces a large number of buildings around the state, and it is predicted that over $1 trillion worth of properties are at risk.
Rescue efforts are underway after Ian made landfall in southwest Florida yesterday at near Category 5 strength. The devastation so widespread on the west coast, with communities flooded, homes destroyed, and more than 2 million people without power. The death toll also expected to rise and could be in the hundreds.
And we're getting our first look at the damage from above, and it is extensive. Sky 10 flying over southwest Florida earlier today. The chopper capturing the bridge from the mainland to Sanibel Island, taken out by Ian. We're also seeing homes and boats destroyed in that storm.
While sea level rise may be a slow-moving catalyst, the annual hurricanes that barrage the state are a constant threat to any and all infrastructure. The most recent hurricane destroyed homes, flooded streets, brought down power, and collapsed bridges, creating an almost total destruction of infrastructure in some areas. This kind of destructive weather event may be normalized in Florida because of the frequency with which it occurs, but scientists at NASA predict that the destruction will worsen as climate change generates humid conditions that allows for greater rainfall and wind speed. As the effects of climate change become more apparent, their severity more obvious, politicians, even some Republicans who had written off the entire idea of climate change in the past, have begun to look into methods to combat the rising water. For example, Republican Representative Chip LaMarca created a bill to put a scientist in charge of protecting the state from climate change without letting any politics get in the way. While this is a step in the right direction, many of the effects of climate change are already here and will take their toll on Florida. It is up to the citizens of other states and countries to participate in activism and voting so that their representatives can get the message and take action to present their homes around the world before waiting until the last second like Florida.